All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Second Cup of Coffee. Pastor Tom here. We're on week 4, so that means we're into our second cup conversations. And right here with me, dear friend of mine, Brandon Wilcox. He is so doing me a big favor. He stepped from behind the camera. You guys, if you've never met him, he does all of our production work. He films it, he edits it, he comes up with the cool graphics that you see. Very, very grateful. Thank you.
I try.
But he was sharing some things with me that went along with what we're talking about this month about dealing with our enemies. And I think it's, even though last week we talked about not being culturally relevant, we don't want to ignore the culture either.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that we've been walking through, we'll just say as the body of Christ, right? I think we're not completely... we don't encompass the whole body of Christ between the two of us in the sense that we're like, oh yeah, that's what everybody looks like and acts like. Please don't, at least not me. He's good, you know. With me, you eat the meat and spit out the bones. But in all seriousness, though, I think your perspective and then what's common to man is going to come through, because I think there's a lot of people walking through some of these things. Yeah. And so I just want to set the stage a little bit and then kind of open it up with some questions for Brandon, give him a chance to respond and share what's on his heart. We've really been walking through this, what do I do when there's enemies, and how do I preserve my identity and walk out what God's given me? 1 Samuel 16, it's David coming out of the field. Samuel's at the dinner table with all of his brothers. He didn't pick any of his brothers. You got anybody else? They have to wait till David gets there. I think it's kind of ironic. Everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people think it's cool to be a prophet, right? There's a bit of an industry going on, right? And although some people may be a little less inclined these days, but can you imagine Samuel? He didn't want to be there. One, he loves Saul, and then two, he's like, if Saul finds out, I'm dead. So now he's got to wait for whoever's coming out of the field. No guarantee that he's going to even anoint this kid. He comes out, bright-eyed kid. That's the one. He anoints him. And then Samuel leaves. So here's David sitting at the table with 7 people that have been passed over, and he's still dripping with the oil. And talk about being in the presence of your enemies. Fast forward, he writes Psalms 23. God prepares a table in the presence of my enemies, anoints my head with oil. So I wonder if he was thinking about what had happened in his life, seeing that picture played out and realizing, I didn't set this table. I didn't even get an invitation. I show up, right?
Yeah.
I get anointed. They say I'm going to be king. I don't know what that means, whatever. And then I'm left there alone sitting at this table. And at that moment, you have a decision. What am I going to do? How am I going to react? How am I going to respond? And I think respond's a better word.
Yeah.
And so I'm leading this up to ask Brandon a question, because it says in Psalms 23, after that, it says, surely goodness and mercy will follow my life. And I want to ask you to respond to something. I think we live in a reactionary culture, and we react to who we think our enemies are. But can you speak to maybe what God's been speaking to you about how to respond? How to walk in goodness and mercy? What is that? What does that look like? I mean, do you add things? Do you subtract things? What is that? Because I think as a person, I need some of what you have, like those tools to walk away with and say, in this culture, in this time that we're in, how do I respond as opposed to react? Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's not easy, obviously, in a day and age of social media.
Right.
Because we have social warriors. You know, we get on Facebook and we don't agree with somebody and we let everything go. We hammer people. Or we get hammered by people.
Social warriors.
The social warriors,
wow.
Yeah.
All right.
They're the ones that, in person you can have a normal conversation, but online it's like it's everything vile and just comes right at you really strong. And so it's really difficult in trying to navigate with, there's so much coming at us, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not just in our personal day-to-day with people and keeping those relationships, but then depending on how much you're involved in certain platforms that you have these relationships with people online, and trying to manage, how do I respond? How do I show love? How do I maybe just don't check the Facebook every time somebody,
Right.
Sends you a message or responding to posts that you see. I had to kind of go through a detox recently because with the election and regardless of who you voted for or what political party you subscribe to, I'd say most people got caught up in this last election pretty heavy. We had COVID going on, and we had this election going on, and we saw humanity in an ugly light.
Yeah, for sure.
And I found myself getting so caught up in the day-to-day of the politics, the day-to-day of like what's happening right now in America and what's happening with the COVID response, and we all choose a side and we want to hold on to that side dearly. And after everything has settled, I didn't feel like I was disappointed in what happened or like somehow I was gypped. I've talked to some friends that they're devastated. They're devastated over the results. And then there's other groups that are happy with the results. But I found myself in a place where the Lord was just in a quiet place saying, where's your affection? Where have you put your attention and your affection? And it's not on me. And I just had to take a moment and just go, wow, where have I been putting my affection? I've been putting my affection in checking my Facebook and Instagram before I would open my word, or checking my email and the news media and everything going on before I've even said, hey, good morning, Lord.
Right.
And because my affection was so heavy on, I wanted to stay informed. And I feel like I've lost like months of my life because now I'm having to go back and just spend time with the Lord. I shut off everything. I shut it all down. And I'm just going back to that the most important thing, that first love, that getting back and being excited to be in your word and discovery, and I'm like, why would anybody walk away from the love and affection of the Lord? But we get so caught up in this day-to-day stuff, and we get so caught up.
Do you think it's because we're becoming His warriors, right? I'm doing God's, I'm defending Jesus.
I mean, honestly, that's
yeah.
Because we choose a side, so we have to defend that side.
Right. I've heard Him say to me clearly, I don't need your defense.
Yeah, right?
I mean, He said that to me clearly. I mean, I'll get fired up reading something somebody said, and I'm like ready to be, the keyboard pirate, like blah, 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 blast away. And He's like, I don't need your defense.
Yeah, because really, what do we have to offer? We stand at the edge of the universe, and we go, here I am, Lord. This is what I have to offer you. And God's like, I created you. You have nothing to offer me but your affection, and your love. That's all that He wants.
And our obedience.
Yeah, and that's it.
But so David goes, right, so he's at this table. Who knows what goes down with his brothers? I can't even imagine. I mean, I think it's funny. People are like, well, the Bible's not relevant. The Old Testament's not relevant. This is the Old Testament. I don't know how much more relevant you can get.
Yeah.
I mean, he just got anointed king, and there's already a king, right? I mean, talk about a conflict, and then his brothers are witness to this, and 3 of them worked for the king. So so are they part of treason? What's going to happen? You know, there's a lot of, and it's not just a story of intrigue. I mean, it's kind of like how it is right now. But this is what I heard when you were talking, Brandon, but then God drew him at times back into the field, which was his foundation of where he learned to put his affection on God, where he learned to worship, where he learned to take care of sheep, where he learned all of those things. Can you, I know I'm kind of throwing this up, but can you speak to that for a second of what that really, like, this is what I think happens, and I think happened in the prophetic community. Everybody's looking to hear it first so they can post it first so they can be the first one on the edge of whatever God is doing prophetically, or you could just say news-wise, right? I heard it first, posted, and that's a dangerous place to play because I found, even being slightly prophetic, that if I'm in that realm, my soul speaks first before God more times than not, and I get myself in trouble.
Yeah.
When I draw away from having to be first, and I allow Him to take me back into the field, back to what you're saying, right? Shutting everything down and getting back to my first affection. Yeah. Then it doesn't matter to me if I'm first or not. what matters to me is what I'm hearing. So can you speak to that just a little bit, like kind of what you're experiencing in that place? Or
Yeah. David was a man after God's own heart, and we can say a lot of things about that.
Right.
Because this is a man who commits murder. He goes to war. He has opportunities to take Saul out, and he doesn't.
Right.
David, at this time, he's a woolly boy. He takes care of the sheep out in the field.
Mm-hmm.
What is David?
Right.
And here he is sitting at a table with everybody else, like his other brothers that are definitely more qualified.
Right. Older.
Right.
Which is huge in that culture.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what's coming into David's life, he has no idea what's coming.
Right.
All of the things of coming up to being a king was quite a bit. But to pull away and to come into that place of the hiding place, the secret place, the garden, whenever I'm in my prayer time, for whatever reason, my mind always goes to a garden place, because to me that's a place of peace. That's a place of serenity, and it's just me and Jesus.
Right.
And we're just walking in the garden.
Wow.
And I can definitely see where David, to be the man after God's own heart, he had to love that secret place. He had to love that hiding place.
Right.
Because there's no way that you can have this affection for the Lord and not spend time there. But I think there was, we find David later in the cave just lamenting, and just crying out. Do you see him angry with God? You see him repenting of his anger and saying, I'm sorry, God, but this is just where I am.Here are you in all of this?
Right.
You see a relationship that he has with the Lord that's very much tangible. It's very real, like a son would have with a father.
Right. It's very real to him because of the time he spent in the quiet place, like you said, in the garden for you or the field for him or whatever that is. And I think what I want to leave people with today, Brandon, is this: don't get so caught up with your enemies that you stop going to the quiet place, whether it's a garden, whether it's a field, whatever that is for you, because it's not worth it to lose your relationship with Jesus Christ. And I don't mean salvation, but that connection.
Yeah.
And the reality is, as important as you might feel like you are in this battle, you're not important enough not to be connected to him, because that's the only way you're going to effectively deal with your enemies is with your connection with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's no other way around that, right? Yeah. If I'm not connected to him, then I'm connected to my soul, and it gets squirrely easy and quickly. Right? But I feel justified, right? And I paint Jesus all over it, and I, whatever, but it's not about that. So I really appreciate you hopping on. I really appreciate your heart. And I take that. I'm going to take that and let it work in me. Tom, how often are you going to the quiet place as opposed to just getting wound up with whatever you feel like your enemies are doing or getting away with it? That's even worse, right? They're getting away with this. And but you know what? God's on the throne. It's his. Amen. And at the end of the day, we get to go to eternity, so that's really cool. Thank you so much. Appreciate you for everything you do, but also for this. Guys, please subscribe, RCC Second Cup of Coffee. We would love to see you subscribe to that, just so you can access the things that we've done in the past and the things we'll do in the future if you missed something on social media. God bless you.